Hello, I'm Frank Martone, and I will be discussing with you a little background on LSL, or the Linden scripting language. But before we get started, I'd like to share a little bit about myself. I have been in the computer science field for just over 12 years now, and I currently serve as a field services engineer for Stewart Title. Although I have background and experiences in many of the IT disciplines, from servers and networking to database administration and scripting, my passion is in software development, and more specifically, developing software that allows its users to be more productive and powerful in their business and personal lives. That is why I'm currently working to complete my bachelor's in computer science. Once that goal has been successfully completed, I plan on applying those new skill sets and working for a company that shares my same vision. As for a few non-CS interests, I have 4 amazing boys, so most of my time is spent finding new ways to keep the Martone household entertained. Whether that be football, crazy dance-offs, or kicking back with the boys and checking out the latest in gaming, there's never a dull moment. Speaking of gaming, that's a perfect segue for today's topic, LSL. You may be asking yourself, where am I, and why does it look like I'm standing inside of the gaming world? That's because I am. Welcome to Second Life. Second Life is a fully virtual world that allows its users, or residents as they are called, to meet and interact with other residents, explore, socialize, participate in individual and group activities, and create and trade virtual property and services with one another. It was developed by Philip Rosedale, founder of Linden Lab, and this virtual world first came online in June of 2003. Now, just over 9 years later, there are 1 million active users, and more impressively, there are $700 million in virtual goods transacted inside of Second Life every year. The Second Life software is a 3-dimensional modeling tool consisting of simple shapes that allows its residents to build virtual objects within the world. There is also a procedural scripting language, the Linden scripting language, which was designed to give residents the ability to add interactivity to objects. You can also create textures for clothing, or objects, animations, gestures, and other in-game items by using external software and importing them. But our focus is going to be on the Linden scripting language and how it is used in this virtual world known as Second Life. Let's look under the hood of LSL and see some of the design highlights of this scripting language. Linden scripting language is a strongly typed, state event-driven scripting language consisting of variables, function definitions, either user-defined or one of over 300 currently existing library functions, and one or more named states. Each of LSL's states contain code that tells the object how to react to events that occur while the program is within that state. Multiple scripts may be placed inside an object where they all execute simultaneously, and they are bound to the objects within the virtual world. As for LSL's native data structures, it includes strings, integers, floating point numbers, keys, vectors, rotations, and lists. However, there are no arrays. Instead, multiple list functions are used where array structures would normally be required. LSL also uses built-in delays in many of its functions, which helps prevent developers from writing LSL scripts that could overtax system resources. With such a massive multiplayer environment, memory consumption is always a concern. Therefore, each script within LSL has a max memory cap of 64 KB. A user could still work around this cap by using multiple scripts on an object, or by having one script call another script. Now, what does all this mean in terms of Second Life and its residents? Well, let's jump right in and take a look at some sample code to see LSL in action. To begin scripting within Second Life, you would simply go somewhere you can build, such as land you own, then create an object and select it. Within the Build window, selecting the New Script button under the Content tab launches the script editor. Staying with the age-old Hello World program that we all learn in every new programming language, we'll break down this Hello Avatar script in LSL. In the first line, we see the keyword default, which indicates which state the LSL program will begin executing in. Every LSL program must have at least one state, and that state is labeled default. The curly braces that follow default encapsulate the event handlers within that state. The event handlers in this example are state entry and touch start. The state entry event is triggered whenever execution enters that state. Once the state entry event is triggered, any code sitting within the state entry is run. In this example, the only code used is LSA, which is part of the default library of functions available in LSL. LSA allows a script to chat text onto a channel of its choosing. The arguments within the parentheses that follow LSA control what the function does, which in this case are the integer 0 and the string hello avatar. Channel 0 is the channel that all avatars chat onto and listen to. So by saying hello avatar onto channel 0, the script ensures that any avatars nearby can hear it. The second event handler is touch start. It is triggered when an avatar begins clicking on the object. In this code, we simply use the LSA function, with the only difference being the string argument. When a resident interacts with the object and touches it, the touch start event is triggered and the object says touched on channel 0. Let's take a moment to review some of the categories available to you in the library of available functions. In our first example, we showed that an object can chat to the rest of the world using the LSA function. This is part of LSL's chat functions and is handy for communicating with people near the object. It can also be useful for local object-to-object communication. There are also times when you want to keep your message private or you want to send a message to someone who is not within a specified range. The easiest way to do this is through an instant message. IMs can be heard by the intended recipient anywhere in Second Life, regardless of range. Sensors. Sensors allow you to gather information about objects near the object containing sensor scripts. Setting up a sensor is somewhat like setting up a listen for chat. A script can also change how the built-in physics in Second Life affect an object. An object in Second Life is pinned by default, which means that if you lift it up and let go, it will not fall down. To make it fall, you can adjust its status using physics scripts. By changing the forces on a physical object, you can control how it moves. L set force and L apply impulse are just two examples of physics scripts functions, and they apply a continuous push or a single instant push to the object. For even more control, there are a set of functions that let you change additional parameters to alter every aspect of how a physical object moves. For example, if you wanted to create ice and allow an object to slide across it realistically, you can adjust the friction parameter. Scripts can also give and take Linden dollars within the virtual world. This is handy for creating vendors, gambling games, and more. In order for an object to accept money, the script must have a money event. LSL also has a variety of inventory functions. Every object within Second Life has an inventory, which is where the script lives, but can also contain most of the things a resident's inventory can. The script can give, take, and use the object's inventory. Of course, all programming languages aren't without their drawbacks or shortcomings. The LSL scripting community has offered feedback and a few criticisms on things they feel the scripting language lacks. For example, in many modern languages, there is a library system where the programmer can define a set of functions in a file and then load that file into the main program. This allows the programmer to build code libraries that can be reused or distributed. In LSL, there is no namespace or ability to load a separate source code. Every function must be defined inside a script, which makes it difficult to build any substantial program in LSL. Another drawback is the lack of dynamic evaluation in the language. In most interactive languages, it is often required that the language can evaluate code in a dynamic way, or more specifically, it should be able to construct a snippet of code on the fly and evaluate that code as part of its computation. The fact that LSL does not support this type of dynamic evaluation severely limits its power. There are also several limitations to lists in LSL. For example, list elements in LSL cannot be easily extracted. One has to know the type of the element before extraction and must use the right function for different types. Lists also cannot contain more than 72 items. In order to create larger lists, you must create 2 or more lists and join them. And finally, LSL does not allow for nested lists. Even with its drawbacks, someone new to Second Life can quickly learn the scripting language and begin bringing their imagination to life. LSL's real power is in its ability to allow residents to create objects that communicate and interact with the rest of the world. The purpose of this presentation was just to introduce LSL and how it is used within Second Life. We broke down a sample script and touched on some of the language highlights, such as variables, functions, and state events. We reviewed the various categories within the available library of functions and even shared some of LSL's shortcomings. If having the ability to unleash your creative freedom in a fantasy online world piques your interest, there are many resources available to further your knowledge and skills with the Linden scripting language. There are many books or online resources and tutorials, but perhaps one of the best resources is from inside Second Life itself. Create an account, and once logged in, the event calendar is a great place to start looking for help on LSL. Every week, there are many classes available covering every range of scripting within Second Life that you could think of. Not only do these classes help you learn and master your LSL scripting skill sets, but they also provide a gateway to the community of Second Life scripters, allowing you to build a strong network of friends and fellow scripters to question, collaborate with, and define new challenges. Who knows, maybe someday you can become the next big entrepreneur within the Second Life virtual world. Until then, keep scripting.